All right, back for another beer review, and today I'll be reviewing another beer from the Floyds Brewing Company, and they're out of Munster, Indiana, and this is their Zombie Dust. So this is an American pale ale that comes in at 6.2% alcohol by volume, 50 IBUs at the time of review. This can is approximately 3.5 weeks old, so it's crazy. I never thought I'd see the day that Floyds would be distributing here in the Western New York area. Now, with the pandemic going on, a lot of breweries are, packaging more beers because they can't sell, obviously, at their tap room. And I believe Floyds actually, I think they closed their tap room. I don't think it's permanent. I think it's just temporary. But they've been apparently distributing quite far. They've made it here to the Western New York area, and I believe they're actually going to start distroing into the New England area, if not by now, sometime in the very, very near future. So it's crazy. I showed up at my local bottle shop, and they had Zombie Dust, Gumball Head, and a couple others. I picked up the Zombie Dust, picked up the Gumball Head, and I've had both of those beers before, but I've never reviewed them. And, when I first got into craft beer, it was late 2009, but I didn't get into IPAs until about 2011-12. It took me a couple years to acclimate my palate to IPAs and actually enjoy them. And at that point, if you talked about hop-forward beers, there were 3 beers in the conversation for like hyped, and you got to try them. This beer, Russian River's Pliny the Elder, and then Alchemist's Heady Topper. Those were like the 3 hyped. You got to try them. They'll kind of change your life type of IPAs. This is a pale ale. Those are both double IPAs. One West Coast, Pliny, and the other one Vermont style, double IPA, Heady. But this was one of those beers where it was like, wow, it's a pale ale. It's like around 6%. But it kind of always, to me, drank like an IPA. This is just like a very intense, basically IPA, but it's a pale ale. Whatever. I believe this beer uses, I don't think it's just strictly Citra, but it might be, but it definitely focuses and showcases Citra. So I remember that being cool, 10 years ago or 9 years ago, where Citra, not used in every single beer like it is nowadays. So yeah, anyway, this is pretty fresh, under a month old, and it's in a can. First time I've ever having this beer in a can. And the first time I ever had this beer, I gave it a 5 out of 5. The subsequent times I had it, kind of like 4.5, 4.75 range, still awesome beer. And the last time I had it was a couple years ago, and it was still awesome. So I'm hoping that it's still awesome to my palate. I guess we will see. But, if you've gotten into craft beer and IPAs and pale ales and hop forward beers over, say, the last, 2-3 years, and hazies are your jam, I might think that you might not like this one. This is not in that realm, but it's still a delicious beer nonetheless, at least from what I remember. So that pours out this really nice, golden orange color, about a 2-finger of this off-white, very creamy looking head, little soap sudsy, but mostly creamy. It's unfiltered, but not, it's not super hazy and murky and turbid and whatnot, but it's unfiltered. Yeah, looks nice. Let's get a nose. Yeah, it's a classic pale ale. There's huge citrus to me. There's oranges and tangerines, pink grapefruit, sweeter. A little bit of like a peach apricot stone fruit. A smidge of like a resinous kind of pine, but not overbearing, just kind of there. A little bit of like a floral, earthy tone. The malt is just carrying those hop flavors. The underlying malt's more of like a slightly caramel, but more of like a bready type of malt base. But this is huge on the citrus. It's funny, I kind of know when this beer, to me, and I've had it a couple times, where it's starting to turn, it's an older IPA. It's happened twice to me with this beer. I start getting that like black tea type of character. And one of the bottles I had, it was like a couple months old, and that was like full on black tea. It was crazy. Some beers don't last that long. This is a beer that I've drank a couple times around 2 months and got that black tea, but I just remember the last time, distinct black tea note. I don't get that here because this is 3.5 weeks old. Yeah, big citrus notes. Like I said, it's more of like a tangerine into a pink grapefruit, sweeter, a little pithy, a little rindy, but for the most part, juicy citrus fruits. That peach, little bit of bubble gum right there. Yeah, it smells like Zombie Dust to me. Let's get into it. Cheers, everyone. I just want to take this to the head. This is so fucking good to me. Listen, I know there's going to be people that watch this review and I'll be like, I tried it recently. It's okay, whatever. 3.75, 3.5, whatever. It's just, and I get that. I think if I got into craft beer in the last couple of years, I think with all the juicy, crazy, New England style, fruit bowl of tropical awesomeness, you drink a beer like this and you might be turned off by it because it's not that beer. It's not that style. But this just reminds me of the good old days when I first got into IPAs and what kind of set the standard for my palate back then, and this is one of those beers. The body at 6.2% is like medium body. The mouthfeel, while it has a crisp carbonation, it's so soft and smooth. It's not creamy. It's not New England style pale ale. It's not New England style IPA, so it doesn't have like that luscious, creamy type of like, pillowy mouthfeel, but it has a really nice mouthfeel to it. And then the taste just carried over from the nose. Tons of citrus, orange, tangerine, pink grapefruit, a little bit of lemon lime, but mostly orange and grapefruit. Sweeter, juicier oranges and grapefruit. And that hits me right at the front of the palate, but then right after that, I get a little bit of like that bready kind of malt sweetness, and then the pithiness from the fruits that don't actually exist in here because from the hops, but a perceived pithiness, rindiness, like it just has like the pith and the rind from like a pink grapefruit or from an orange or a tangerine right at the middle of the palate that kind of it introduces a little bit of bitterness. Then that carries on through the back of the palate, touch of pine resin, touch of like a floral, earthy sensation. It finishes slightly sweet, semi-dry, moderately bitter, but not overly so. It's just a fucking beautifully balanced, it's a fucking beautifully balanced beer. There's not much more to say about it. 6.2%, you can't tell. This is, to me, if I want an American pale ale, not a New England style, not just a straight West Coast style, not any specific style, just an American pale ale, or just a pale ale. They call it an undead pale ale, but I do love the label and whatnot. I used to love the bottles though. The can's still cool, but the bottles, they had the shine and whatnot, and like the bottles are fantastic. But to me, this is to me that like I love. Well, I shouldn't say I love. I really like Sierra Nevada Pale Ale. That was the gold standard for many years. To me, this is like a better version of that. Just so fucking good and just crushable. So, oh man, this is a delicious beer. It is. It just fucking is. To my palate, this is delicious. I don't know what else to say. So, Zombie Dust from 3 Floyds. I have no problem giving this a. Yeah, it's a high 4.5 out of 5. It's a 4.6 out of 5. It's no longer the 5 out of 5, but maybe stylistically, talking just an American pale ale, this is probably a 5 out of 5 still, but 4.6 out of 5 is a fucking great score because it's a great beer. I'm so happy I can get this. I just picked up a single can because I'm sitting on so many hop-forward beers and beers in general that I have to drink. But once I work through my stash, so to speak, I'm going to try to pick up a 6-pack of this and just have it in the fridge for a drinking beer because it's fucking that good. It is that good. Price point, availability. I have no idea at this point. I just know we see them here in West New York area. I see that they're going to start destroying into the New England area and more into the East Coast. So if you're in the East Coast and the Midwest, you should see this beer. A price point on this one, I think I paid $12.99 for a 6-pack. That's what I did not buy the 6-pack, but I bought a single can. But the price point comes out to about $12.99 6-pack. $13 for a 6-pack of this? Yes, please. That's a fucking great deal for a beer that's this quality. So if you've had this one before, and I'm sure a lot of you who are sub to the channel, who follow the channel, have had this one before, let me know what you think about it. Do you think it's still, since they canned it, if you've had it in a can, do you think it tastes as good as the bottle? Do you still think this one tastes as good as you remember it? Because my palate has changed a lot since the first time I had this one, 6-7 years ago. But it's still fucking delicious to my palate. And this is 3.5 weeks old, and it's still fucking killer. I'm sure a month from now, this is going to start having that black tea character I was talking about. But right now, this is fucking top-notch, basically world-class pale ale that I am loving. And I'm going to enjoy the rest of that off camera and probably wish I had another can or two. Anyway, like I said, if you've had this one before, post in the comments. Let me know what you think about it. I appreciate everybody stopping by for another beer review here on the Beer Patrol. Until the next one. Cheers.